Alright everyone, we're back, and today we're going to be talking about the Ford Ranger. So the Ford Ranger is a vehicle now, again, brought back to model year 2019, or it's a 2020 model that's out now in 2019, and it is Ford's mid-range vehicle. Now, the Ford Ranger has been sold in the States for quite a few years, and since then, Chevrolet and specifically Toyota have taken over the mid-range truck game. Just for this last year's kind of cumulative sales and everything, Ford has moved into the third place of the mid-range truck game with 20,000 sales, right behind Chevrolet with the Colorado with 31,000, and then both well behind the Toyota Tacoma at 63,000. That is a lot of mid-sized trucks. Now, what I think the Ford Ranger has been a misstep right now. I think they, like, obviously Ford is a very established brand, especially here in the United States, and they know what they're doing. If they didn't, they wouldn't be in business. Everyone can always sit and critique and things like that, and, you know, everyone can look inside and think they have a better opinion, but the company should have a good idea of what it's doing. Now, I find the Ranger to be odd, because when you price point Ranger compared to Colorado and Tacoma, maybe not as much Tacoma's a little expensive, especially compared to something like Frontier and stuff like that. Ranger just doesn't fit into Ford's model of having the affordable blue-collar kind of vehicle and things like that. Now, these mid-sized trucks are definitely more in this toy category. They're not meant for super heavy loads of work and things like that. They're meant for someone that want a truck but don't need a full size. They're definitely their own thing. People that just do some like weekend warrior work, right? But the Ford Ranger, and especially Ford's whole model plan, is all about having F-150 is the cheapest, and Mustang is the cheapest out of the group. Sorry about that. And it's just Ford Ranger was weird. Now, the reason I think Ford Ranger is maybe not suffering, obviously it's not doing terrible. It is 10,000 units behind. But it's brand new, right? And the reason I think that it's not doing as well as it could have been is because it went away for so long, and they have priced it too expensive compared to everyone else. Now, everyone that likes Ford, obviously, and there are a lot of people, there's no denying that it is a very popular brand. If probably the most, I'm hesitant to say this because I like Dodge and Chevrolet more, but they are the most popular American brand. They're known way more around the world, and even in the States and things like that. I mean, F-150 has been, what was the last number, like 42 years or something like that. It's been #1 selling, so everyone knows Ford, and everyone knows every brand, but Ford is obviously the largest. Which, when they released, or when they were bringing back the Ranger, it was really cool, because I think that the mid-game truck, or mid-sized truck, is a very interesting battle to see, because while Toyota is on top, it was kind of, Tacoma was one of the only it was the only really neat / cool version of the vehicles to get. The older Ranger was kind of lame. The last generation Chevy Colorado was, again, kind of lame, nothing too cool about it, kind of ugly and things like that. Whereas Tacoma has just been refining this truck for years. If you look at 2008 Tacoma to a 2019 Tacoma, they're not that different. They are obviously updated, but they're not crazy different, and that is not a bad thing. It's just a little, at this point, I consider Toyota a very boring brand, and we'll do that in the next video. But Tacoma and Colorado have been fighting for this top dog, and Colorado's doing okay now. It has an uphill battle, but Colorado's in a good spot. The next generation Colorado looks really nice, very aggressive styling, things like that. But Ranger has kind of none of this. It is a modern-looking mid-sized truck. That's what it is. That's all there is to it. They did make an aggressive version, and it's not bad, but that's not in the U.S., so we can't even think, not even going to judge the Ranger Raptor. We do have a Ranger, we do have a Raptor, and I get where Ford was going with this. They say we get the better of the Raptors. That is true, but no one ever wants to have a limited market and things like that. Everyone always wants to have all the options available, even though the Ranger Raptor probably was going to be, probably like $50,000+ and probably wasn't going to sell that well here. So, that was smart by Ford to not give it to us. Chevrolet's kind of proven that the diesel thing kind of works, especially things like the Bison and stuff, and their little Duramax engine. People like those. The big thing with the Ranger was also it doesn't have a 6-cylinder, which is most people know from their ads and stuff like that. The common misconception is that a truck like this needs a 6-cylinder. Well, no car really necessarily always needs the engine it has. There's always can be a better option, and almost every single mid-size compact car and stuff all run on turbo 4-cylinders, and they're all perfectly fine. But it's the same reason why, sure, no one wants a V6 Mustang, but no one really thinks that a 4-cylinder Mustang's cool. And the turbocharger doesn't make you cool and things like that. And it's not bad. It has specs right up with everyone else. It's perfectly fine. But I think where Ford hurt themselves is that they've come back into the game with what seems like an old modeled style truck. What I mean by that is, I think if they would have kept it around and kept improving it, kept refining, and making it better, they could have been, if not possibly, the best-selling mid-size truck if they would have put the money into it back then. They brought it back because they realized the mid-size truck game is decent in America, so they want to cut themselves out a piece of it. Now, they've already started to cut themselves out a decent size, but I think it could have been better. When you have all three, Tacoma, Colorado, and Ranger right next to each other, and I went over this in my kind of Ranger Colorado video, where it just doesn't make sense to get the Ranger over the other one. It doesn't. But if Ranger had been around for a while and they've been able to show that it's a higher quality piece and is worth more money, then that would make sense, but they're not there yet. They should have come in with entry levels and things like that, kind of like every single car does. Corvette is coming in with the Stingray, and that will be the only model available at launch. And then, technically we don't know, but we all know that they're going to come with the Grand Sport and then Z06 and then probably eventually a ZR1 like they have been. An entry-level, kind of cheap-level Ranger would have been perfectly fine. Give it a leather option, not necessarily start with, whatever their regular, is it XLT or something like that, whatever the base model is, and then have a Lariat version and stuff that's worth $48,000, but has no major features that the other two don't. TRD Pro Tacoma and ZR2 Colorado both have a lot of appealing features. They're very aggressive. They look cool. They have the capability. While Ford is trying to sell the vehicle and having capability, it doesn't look like it. Sure, it has things like a trail assist and stuff like that. Their trail cruise control thing. I don't know for a fact if Colorado and Tacoma have this. I'm gonna go out and say Tacoma doesn't have this. That's just a really good guess because Toyota's really lacking in things, but they're such an established name. Tacoma is such an established name in the midsize truck realm, so that's why it's going to continue to sell well. So whatever. If Ford could have kept the Ranger around a little bit longer, or put a little bit more effort into it than having this, technically, I guess what I'm explaining would have been the last generation Ford Ranger, just not modern looking, not that nice looking and things like that. So I think next year will probably be another lame year for Ranger. By lame, I'm meaning not anything will happen, and maybe in the next 2 years probably not anything will happen. Usually takes a long time for these things to evolve and stuff like that, or at least 2 years isn't that long, especially in the grand scheme of everything, but it's going to be a decent amount of time. So we'll definitely have to wait and see. Ranger is close to being good. It's close. And people are buying it because, well, it's a Ford midsize truck, so they're going to go buy, if they want a midsize truck, the Ford version. but I don't think it's there yet. I think people would be, I think they would be happier, even though they bought the Ranger. I think they would be happier with Colorado and things like that. So we'll have to wait and see. I think it'll be really interesting. I like these kind of off the wall little groups that are happening. I mean, sedans are actually really interesting to look at right now. Mid-sized trucks, I mean, the updated Colorado, that's really cool to look at, and things, what they're doing there. I think boring areas are kind of full-size trucks. That's nothing really super cool is happening there, but if we look at some of the diesels and stuff, Dodge is doing some cool stuff. Muscle cars and supercars will always be cool and things like that. But it's the models that everyday people go after that are a lot more interesting to see, because they have to fight so hard for your hard-earned money and things like that. So that'll do it today. I guess what I'm getting at is, I think Ford Ranger could be a lot better. If you disagree, let me know. If you agree, talk about it in the comments, things like that, and we'll see where they go from here. So as always, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.